My lying husband has been sleeping with my mother for 22 years, so I'm going to destroy both of their lives. So I have been with my husband since we were 15. I got pregnant with his child at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I then gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. My husband and we went on to have 3 more kids, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child. I really thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week, we went on date nights, we bought each other gifts, we didn't fight. But my entire world was shattered on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a trip I had taken with some friends. I walked into my bedroom to find my mom having intimacy with my husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed my unclothed 68-year-old mother run out of our house and slam the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked him for the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They'd been having unprotected intimacy at least once a month for longer than we were married, which was for 22 years. I ran the math and was horrified, because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's children. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess and my dad was devastated. He and my mom were high school sweethearts too. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from her house when he confronted her. My parents are our neighbors. I then told my older sister and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my eldest daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what my mom and husband been doing. Most of the family is on my side, except my 3 youngest siblings, my twin sister and my ex's entire family. They all say I'm an a-hole for dropping this publicly. Word got out and my mom's best friend, who is on leadership at my mom's church, called me to verify. My mom has since been let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I've essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out and she's now living with my twin sister, and lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's bio children. I've since kicked him out and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into his much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new house somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband is appalled and furious that I proved he actually is about to have 7 kids, instead of 5, that I'm going to be taking half his business away from him. My husband started his own HVAC company a few years back, and for the first 5 years, I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely, and took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets, including businesses, are split 50-50. Since the house was still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale, neither will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also likely to not get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. I'm now over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy of calling me a WHRE and shaming my family, when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex with everything within me now, as he was doing both my mom and me minutes apart in some instances. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. He has broken all trust I had in men and being faithful. I have already procured a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping pay for it. As for how I had no idea this affair was ongoing, my husband confirmed to me that they would have intimacy at my mom's office, at church, in their cars, at a motel, and when we built the business, they started having it routinely in his office, once I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses too when my father would go away on business trips or I'd be out of town. It was pure happenstance that I came home a day early from a trip, because I was uncomfortable from being nearly 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed, for me to find out. Knowing they'd be carrying on this full-blown affair still if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying our families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is that my own mother would do this to me and would continue to do this for years and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she would be destroying her entire family. Edit. Also, to add insult to injury, my husband confirmed in one of our mediated conversations the affair started when I apparently made him angry. He didn't tell me and instead vented to my mom when they were alone. She comforted him and they had intimacy. He loved it and then pursued her after that. He said he would have divorced me, but knew he'd get cut off from her and she was so much better at intimacy than me, so stuck it out with me. He told me I was a placeholder. Of all the betrayal and low blows, that statement is what keeps me up at night.
My greedy wife wants to take half of my gambling earning and called me a thief. I told her I am not her ATM. I make $150,000 and my wife makes $50,000. We are not super rich for the city we live in, but we can lead a comfortable lifestyle well within our means. Since we don't have kids yet, we can spend more on ourselves and each of us gets $500 of fun money every month to do with as we please. My wife likes to use her money to buy clothes for herself or go out for brunches with her friends. My hobbies are all over the place. I need something that gives me a thrill to get that dopamine rush. One time, I decided to pick up gambling. There's a casino about 20 minutes on foot from where we live, so every Saturday, I go there to gamble $100. I only take the $100 and leave my wallet at home so that I'm not tempted to spend any of our joint money in case I lose. For the most part, I break even or lose some money. My wife hates that I gamble because she thinks I'll go down a destructive path, but I honestly love it and do it anyway because that's what makes me happy, much to her annoyance. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago I got lucky and ended up making $1,000. I was obviously super delighted since I never won this much before in my life. I decided to buy a PS5 and a few games since I never owned a gaming console. When my wife found out I bought all this stuff, she asked me how I was able to spend so much since all of it cost around $700 to $800. I told her about my winnings. She got upset and said I should have given half of it to her. I told her I got this money from my share of the fun money, so it's my choice to do what I want with it. She said only the original $500 is mine. The $1,000 is an income and should be shared between us. I disagreed because I don't claim 50% of her possessions when she goes out shopping. She called me selfish for only thinking about myself. She wants to go on a girls' trip and this extra money would have helped her afford it. I told her what I do with my money is my business, and if she wants more spending money, she can figure out a side hustle instead of using me as an ATM. She complained about me to her friends and they're all calling me a financial abuser for stealing what rightfully belongs to her. I think they're all entitled assholes. My narcissistic mother sent me a huge letter trying to guilt trip me into reconnecting with her. One of the reasons she gave is making me consider it. Despite everything she has done, I'm thinking of giving in. So my wife and I both came to the realization that my mom is completely toxic. She is a parent who constantly plays the victim, and a person who won't change. She has called my wife the N-word, has been racist too many times to count, has infantilized me throughout my entire life, and forced herself to be involved in every part of my wife and I's relationship, even going as far as stating she was basically the real mother of my wife and I's child. She is one of those people where the only thing you can do unfortunately is severely limit communication or cut them off completely. We chose the latter. My father, at age 59, passed away last year, but during that time when he was seriously ill, we were all there for him, which of course meant being in the same room as my mom. Other than that, I've only seen her basically 3 times over the past 4 years. But after my dad's funeral, I haven't seen or talked to my mom since. My mother is currently 52 years old for context. This morning a letter arrived in the mail. It was from my mother.
Good morning, my son. I have been thinking of you lately, and since it has been 18 months now that your father went home, I thought I would share some things I have been reflecting on. Your absence is getting more tolerable for me. The longer the time elapses, the more numb I feel. I even have considered that should you enter back into my life, I have changed, I promise, but our relationship is so tarnished, it probably would not be worth your effort. I would not even recognize your daughter, and of course, they have no idea who their Nana is. What a shame, what a crime on your part and on your wife's part to feel that I am so evil that you did not want your children to ever know who their grandmother is. I have also been thinking of your wife. Not to forgive is like swallowing poison. She will forever feel the negative effects of her actions and choices toward me. You both are enjoying knowing the effects of your actions while thinking of the pain that you have incurred on me. Several years ago I made forgiving me very easy for both of you through 2 heartfelt letters I wrote. You still can't forgive, you ultimately are the ones that are and will suffer, because forgiveness is always necessary to move on. In regard to your wife, I consider her to be one of the most incorrigibly evil women I have ever known. For her to brainwash you, my son, so much, to irrevocably permanently damage a mother-son relationship will not be forgotten, but it is forgiven. She has blamed me for one of your daughters having cystic fibrosis, which is totally irrational. I am not the only one in the family that believes this. As a mother herself, she should know a mother's love for her child. You are my son. You can believe what you want, but she could have changed destiny through love, peace and forgiveness. On the other hand, you continue to hide in the shadow of her apron strings. You are not man enough to fully comprehend the harm she has done, pure evil at its core. I know her. Rationale is to protect her children from keeping me away from them, and at the same time prevent you and me from having a relationship. You have believed her lies, unbelievable. I have definitely moved on. Your father was not a great husband, but I chose to love him unconditionally. He was a father, not a dad, but he did his best. I can tell you that he was a much better father than he had, and definitely a better father than I had. We all have scars and must learn to venture forth in life as best we can. It is a shame that you have chosen to abandon me like this. You are not the son I raised. I would have loved for you to have met my new boyfriend Randy. He is the polar opposite of your father, and the two of you would have shared so many interests: golf, poker, skiing, football, etc. He was an avid extreme skier back in the day. He is a kind man and prays for you nightly. We have been dating for a few months now, and we have prayed together every night without fail, whether he is with me or on the phone. He always mentions all of my children. Yes, he is a lover of the Lord. He is not famous or rich nor drive a fancy car, nor does he take me on European cruises every 6 months. What he has done is to show me how much I can be loved, how much I can be adored and appreciated, and how beautiful I am to him. I love him very much, and the feeling is reciprocated. I don't know what the future holds for us, I just enjoy each day, and my life has been so full because of him. Also, Randy got me pregnant. It's gonna be a little girl. I want you to meet her, that is the main reason I am writing this letter. I want you to meet your baby sister. I hope you and your witch of a wife find it in your heart to forgive, and welcome the newest member of your family into this crazy world. Love forever, Mom.
Although I realize that my mother is not good for either my wife nor I, the fact that I have a little sister on the way is kind of exciting. I don't want to forgive, but maybe for the sake of the sister I have too.
I'm here again, and this is my story. I am a 20-year-old mom with a son. Yesterday he turned 15, and I gave him some clothes and condoms as his birthday present. He asked why the condoms, I said, are getting old now, and I thought maybe you can bring a girl home. He said, Mom, I am in love with someone, but I am scared to tell her that I love her. I said, say that she beautiful, and that she has a nice body. 2 days later, my son said, Mom, I love you and are beautiful. I remembered what I said to him on his birthday. I always found him attractive, but I think all moms find that of their sons. I said, thank you, son. After that, he said, do you want to go to the toilet together? I thought he wanted to let me see something, but I was wrong. He unzipped his pants and told me to let him show my tits. I was so horny that I said yes. I unzipped my pants as well, and he asked me if he could do some naughty things with me. I said, okay, Daddy. He put his whole foot in my V, and I moaned so hard that he came on my face, I licked all of it off my face. Then I gave him head, and he came in my mouth. I found that so nice that I said, put it in my ass. Daddy, he did it and came again. He came so much that day that he died after that I used him as a sex toy. And that was my story, bye.
I pretended to be stuck in the dryer to tease my husband. You all know that meme with the girl stuck in the dryer wiggling her ass trying to seduce her stepbrother? My husband showed me one of those jokes the other night, and I thought of it again about an hour later when I was doing the laundry. So, I did it. I bent over when he wasn't looking and pushed myself into the dryer. The position gave me no view of him at all, but I heard his amused laugh as he crossed the room to give my ass a spank. I was only wearing a big t-shirt and panties at the time. One spank quickly turned into a second, which turned into him rubbing my clit through my panties, while keeping his hands on my waist so I couldn't get out of the dryer. When I started my little joke, I didn't actually expect he'd get into it. The position itself had always seemed too silly for me. I guess while it was a sexual joke, it hadn't actually turned me on. My husband's fingers had entirely changed my mind. I piped up for him, even including the dumb, "What are you doing, stepbrother?" It earned me another laugh from him before he tugged my panties down around my ankles. I pointed out that the position wasn't exactly the most comfortable, and told him not to take his time. Everybody loves quickies, right? His hot dog was inside of me seconds later. I braced myself against the back vent of the dryer and pushed back into him. His pace quickened, and I kept up my feigned complaining and started into a lecture about how Mom and Dad absolutely cannot find out about this. He laughed again, but his hot dog also throbbed inside of me, so I continued. My babble continued until it earned me a harder spank across the ass, and my husband playfully warned me that if I wasn't quiet, we'd end up getting caught. I decided that was a wonderful time to practice my Kegels, and did my best to bring him closer and closer to the edge while also having no ability to reach back with my hands. He pushed his hot dog entirely inside of me and gasped as he filled me. We kissed when he pulled me out of the dryer, and I asked how I did playing porn star for the evening. He told me I had done a wonderful job, before chasing me up the stairs to our bedroom.
What's the most fucked up thing you did in a sleepover? I was in the bathroom. I could overhear whispers, so I knew they were going to play a prank on me. I thought that the prank would be that they would unexpectedly break the door open while I was in there. So, to counter-surprise them, I decided to only pretend I was on the toilet, and to instead hold the door shut by pushing against it with both palms, adding my weight to the door and preventing it from being pushed open. However, that was not their intended prank. They thought I was on the toilet, far from the door. So their idea was to have a sword thrust unexpectedly through the door. The sword went through the door and then straight through the palm of my right hand as well. Blood went everywhere. The sword went in and out quickly. I have vague memories of turning the sink on and wrapping my hand with hand towels even while blood spurted throughout the room. I don't remember getting in the car, but apparently I was driven to the emergency room. It's now 20+ years later. The rest of my hand is fine, but I have a small scar of light-colored flesh on my palm where I no longer have any feeling. Usually when I mention the story, I just say that I was stabbed through by a sword when I was a teenager, without going into detail on the how and why, which is significantly more stupid. The same person who did this prank on me decided to prank someone else by holding a knife right above a sleeping person's eye so that when they woke up the first thing they'd see is a knife blade close up. Thankfully, that particular incident resulted in only a scream, with no physical injuries. Looking back, I suspect he may have been an unhealthy friend to hang out with. What's one thing about the female body that men might not know? Part 2. 1. The bum area is often darker than the rest of us because there is more skin pigment there. A lot of corn stars bleach their bums. As a result, there are men who are inexperienced with women but watch a lot of corn who are then surprised to see a real chocolate starfish that hasn't been bleached. I saw a Reddit post where a guy broke up with his girlfriend after they had fun time because he thought she didn't wipe her chocolate starfish because it was darker. 2. When the placenta detaches from the wall of the womb after giving birth so it can be delivered, it leaves a wound the size of a dinner plate, and this is a lot of why we bleed for so long after giving birth. 3. There are about a 80% chance that my tampon string is buried in my crack somewhere. 4. Pads are stuck to our underwear, not to our V's. 5. When breastfeeding, milk doesn't come out of just one hole, it sprays out multiple holes. 6. My wife and I saw something on social media about this forthcoming fact and she confirmed it, but she doesn't Reddit. She told me that sometimes when girls fart, the fart bubble rolls forward instead of back and settles into the vulva. Then it kind of just stays there until you move around.
Entitled and relentless mother spent years trying to profit off her own child's injuries by falsely accusing me. The twist at the end of this whole craziness has me hollering. A few years ago I worked in a high-level top-class restaurant, Burger King. One day while working, I brought food to a table at the outdoor seating area where an older woman and her grandson were sitting. The kid, who linked around 5, immediately reached for a cup where the hot coffee I had brought out was. He poured it all on himself and started crying and screaming. I went inside to get some towels. When I got back, the child's mother was now also there, trying to take off her son's clothes and screaming that she demanded compensation. She didn't even know what exactly happened. Her child was screaming in pain and she could only think of the money she could get because of the situation. I was panicking and went back inside to tell the manager about the situation and to tell her to call an ambulance. She did. They arrived and took the child to the hospital. But this is just the beginning. The mother was really hoping to get something for her from that situation, and she decided to get it at all costs. Seeing her behavior when she screamed about compensation while her child was in such pain, not really paying much attention to the child himself, I was really afraid that she would blame me for the whole incident. But I was lucky that the only camera outdoor area recorded the whole thing perfectly in full HD, so there was no doubt that I wasn't the culprit. The problem was that the mother and grandmother of the child didn't pay enough attention to what he was doing. The mother wasn't aware that we had cameras, so she decided to straight up lie about what happened to anyone who had any authority. First, she told the restaurant's manager that it was me who poured the water on her son on purpose and that she witnessed it. However, sadly for her, she was buying more food at the time it happened. And everyone could confirm that she wasn't in the outdoor seats. Then after being caught out, she changed the story and said that I assured her that the coffee was cold. Yeah, for sure I would tell her, who wasn't even at the table, that the cup with the huge note "Caution hot" had iced coffee inside. Again, when confronted with the fact that I couldn't tell her that, because she wasn't there, she decided to make up another version and told the manager that the cup had no lid. However, the footage from security cameras showed otherwise. Then, she said that she didn't order any hot drinks, but the receipt showed that she was lying again. The mother was furious that she didn't convince the manager that she and her son were the victims of fast food employees, but the story doesn't end here. The next day she showed up again, raging at the fact that no one from the restaurant called the hospital to ask about her son's health. How delusional she was to think that any doctor would tell a complete stranger details of his patient's health. She informed everyone that because of us her son had a lot of second-degree burns. The main manager was in the restaurant that day and he was already informed of the incident, so he knew who he was dealing with. The mother was cussing, screaming that he should fire me and that she will report it to the police and will take us all to court. The manager warned us that maybe I and other employees from that shift will have to go to the police station to testify. The woman even emailed the corporate about the whole thing, but all the evidence was against her and the corporate's lawyers said that none of us should be afraid of any consequences, because it was clear that she will never be able to accuse us of hurting her child. I worked there only during holidays, so I stopped working there around a month after that and returned the next holiday and another one. It was 2 years after the incident, when the manager told me that the mother only recently had given up trying to get the compensation, because every attempt was unsuccessful. The footage from the security cameras was enough to prove what happened and none of the employees from that day were called to the police station nor court. The petty thing about the whole situation with this mother who was so sure that she will be able to get a lot of money with her lies, the main manager told me that the restaurant would willingly pay for the boy's treatment, but they decided not to after she said so many bad things about me and other employees who had any contact with her before and during the incident. So she was left with nothing but hatred and medical bills.